Well, hello, that's me again. Today is February 19th, 2025. It is Wednesday, I believe. And um, let me start with a little bit of the tactical situation in terms of special military operation. And then we'll talk a little bit about what really matters. But I will start with this. When people would ask why Russians hate Europeans, yeah, and Russians don't hate Europeans as such. There are very many friendly relations between, Europeans and Russians. But when they understand also why Russians hate Europe, especially, well, there's an issue with the United States. Is the fact that what information which begins to pour in from the Kursk area, where, as you have to understand, armed forces of Ukraine are using civilians as the shields, human shields. So here it is, a resident of Novokhodivka. The armed forces of Ukraine shot 4 children. The oldest was 15 years old. And so he talks about, and this is corroborated. What is happening to the remaining civilians in the Kursk Oblast is absolutely incredibly atrocious. It's reminiscent of the Great Patriotic War and what SS and Nazis were doing to civilians. I saw children being shot. Children were taken out of the windows, running away. Tikat means, when all this happened. And it was the Ukrainian military who started shooting. There were 5 of them, children, but one managed to hide. They jumped out of the windows, he said. This is normal, behavior of the armed forces of Ukraine. They torture prisoners of war, they kill civilians, they use them as the human shield, and guess who, actually inspires them to do so? Not only Nazi regime in Kiev, obviously, but now, NATO, all those wonderful NATO advisors, from United States, from Great Britain especially, those morons, they hate Russian gods. And so, that's Europe for you. And when I look at actually what is happening today at the Frontline, well, let me remind you a little bit why I am, most of the time correct, because I do not listen to all kinds of the rhetoric from all kinds of the high podiums, but I deal with the facts and actual information. And so, as you can see yourself, today, Vladimir Putin actually speaking to people when he was at the very famous military-industrial enterprise in Russia. Putin was informed about the crossing of the border by the Russian armed forces in the Kursk region and access, they entering the territory of Ukraine. And the fighters, the most recent information that I was reported just an hour ago is that tonight the fighters of the 810th Brigade, it's Marine Brigade, naval infantry, crossed the border of the Russian Federation and Ukraine and entered the territory of the enemy. The head of state said, answering a question from journalists during a visit to a drone plant in St. Petersburg. And what happened is just, it's the issue of Kursk, as I already stated, and now it's becoming increasingly clear that why Russians are not in rush. They do still, the place where those basically war criminals from armed forces of Ukraine and their volunteers, so to speak, from the Western countries are being killed in industrial qualities. Now, for today, it was near 62,000 killed. Is the fact that, that place shrinks and Russians already crossed into the Sumy region, of which I was talking about from the get-go. And actually, you can see yourself in the beginning, that's FAB 3000. It flies into the location assembly area in the Sumy region. And whatever was there, it's probably not gonna be there anymore. So, and this is just one of many, so to speak, episodes which are happening in this specific direction, and Russians will be in Sumy region. And guess what? I spoke about this for months now. You can go back to my videos if you think that I'm joking. I was saying that, after Kursk, Sumy region, probably will join Russian Federation. And that's maybe Russians will decide to keep them for now as a gray zone, but yeah, it's not gonna last there for much longer. And Russian general staff obviously uses it to its wonderful advantage, using the Mr. Trump parlance, or beautiful advantage if you wish, to slaughter as many remaining armed forces of Ukraine troops as possible. And if we take a look attentively at the losses of the armed forces of Ukraine for 19th, is that we have actually, it went up again a little bit. As you can see yourself, yet another plane was shot down. I don't know, we'll see, we'll hear clarification what it was. It's going to be either F-16 or Su-25, whatever is left there. So as you can see yourself, they continue to attack Russia with drones. 123 has been shot down, and that will continue for a while. And this is the only thing they know how to do, because obviously what is happening on the ground is really, really worrisome for many people in European capitals, unlike it is the case now in Washington, D.C., where evidently Trump decided to basically drop Ukraine. And so here it is. If you take a look at Kurakhova pocket, remember Kurakhova is underlined in the red line, which was liberated a couple of weeks ago. As you can see yourself, there was some what is called Kurakhova pocket, which was approximately 8 kilometers already to the west of Kurakhova, and there were some forces which continued, being pumped with the drugs and being, stopped by the barrier troops, until, of course, barrier troops started to escape. And it was yesterday, but today it is over. As you can see yourself, this is, for example, one of the places of the grouping of Vostok, which is the east, and it's, well, how to put it? This is Constantinople, actually. Yeah, there is a place there which is called Constantinople, and it's over. That group which was sitting there is gone. Whoever was able to trying to escape, and you can see yourself, they were trying to create some kind of the blocking attack. And you know what is the Ukrainian attack or NATO attack? It's basically putting some hapless company or some bunch of their drugged up creeps and run them on the road to meet Russian troops. By the time they get there, they're pretty much all killed. And so as you can see yourself, this is the end of that grouping. Those who could escape, yeah, Russians report that they took a lot of, many prisoners of war. Some surrendered willfully, others have been, forced to surrender. So yeah, that's pretty much the story of the whole darn situation with their what is happening on the line of the special military operation. And that is why it's, as I repeat ad nauseam, the only thing which matters and always did is the, basically might, the power, and essentially what is happening on the battlefield. As the result, so we can go and talk a little bit about this whole stupid situation which is so much rhetoric. Again, make no mistake, I do not want to go out here, or here and start, interpreting every single word what people say, especially in Trump administration, and especially knowing how Trump directs it, being actually firebrand in many respects. But obviously he decided to, and his administration decided to end up this with Ukraine and try to save the face. Russians will continue with the special military operation. Whatever is, attempts on the rhetoric from the Washington, it doesn't matter. And that is why we have to take anything which is being said in Washington with this serious degree of skepticism, and obviously with a huge grain of salt. But we cannot obviously ignore this. And as you can see yourself, Mr. Trump goes out and suddenly makes this interesting admission, as you can see yourself today. US President Donald Trump expressed confidence that Russia is able to very quickly destroy Ukrainian cities by 100%, including Kiev, but doesn't want to do so. Oh, absolutely. Russians do not fight civilians, and that is why they do not fight war. They fight special military operation, which has completely different restraints regarding how much firepower can be brought to bear. And as we all expect, we anticipate, waiting for it any minute now, from Pentagon to describe that, Russian Oreshnik, for example, did nothing to Yuzhmash. We all know Yuzhmash is not there, and actually the single Oreshnik can basically turn, being absolutely non-nuclear, being absolute, in fact, is having inert warheads. A single Oreshnik can turn pretty much any capital in Europe into the parking lot, at least the center. So together with all those government quarters and things of this nature. So, and he's absolutely correct. Russians do not want to destroy Ukrainian cities. Russians do not want to kill civilians. And at the same time, the head of the White House noted that Russia could turn Kyiv into a large-scale place of destruction. Well, yeah, Russia can, but Russia will not do this. What matters here, obviously, that if Europe will continue to insist on supporting Nazi regime and continuing to inspire those atrocities, there are ways to deal with them. And as I already stated, the dynamics, at least of the rhetoric from Trump and his administration, gives a clear indications that United States wants to save the face and doesn't want to continue to deal with Europe, and especially their teeny-weeny pet project, which is called Ukraine. And yes, we have to keep in mind that it's actually responsibility of both United States and the West, Europe. And so Mr. Trump goes out and says this thing. Here it is. Very interesting. You can read it. So he's talk about a modestly successful comedian talked the United States of America into spending $300 billion to go into a war that could not be won, that never had to start, which I agree. Yeah, if Europe have been normal people, they shouldn't have started. But again, it's not only Europe, it's of course Biden administration, it's rather organized crime group which was occupying the White House and, for the last 4 years before Mr. Trump coming to power. So there you go. And he talks about millions have unnecessarily died. Okay, correct. Millions, as we already know, in terms of the KIAs, the Ukraine cannot sustain actually anymore any kind of operations, and that is why they need to recruit children. 18-year-olds are children. We'll see if they will go for it, but of course the rhetoric of Trump creates the actually earthquakes in Europe every day. And however, what happened in, for example, Saudi Arabia, Russians are pretty kind of, how to say it, relaxed about it, and very moderate in terms of their rhetoric. And as you can see yourself yesterday, Mr. Lavrov actually rebuilding ties, finding common ground, Ukraine peace negotiations, key takeaways from Russia-US talks in Riyadh, and Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov has described the meeting with the US delegation as useful, as both sides look to reestablish contacts. And so, yeah, there is a talk, obviously, that inevitably Mr. Putin and Mr. Trump have to meet, and they probably will meet when some kind of their, agreement will be prepared. I don't think so there will be some necessarily important, if you wish, the signing of documents maybe for the first time. But then again, this I just speculate here, so don't listen to me in this respect. We have to wait and see. For example, the good sign of the practical actions, not just rhetoric, will be what United States continues or will stop to continue, stop providing for Ukraine in terms of weapons. However, insignificant now, and obviously money are not coming their way. But in terms of weaponry and material support of the Nazi regime in Kiev, Russians are not very, excited about this whole thing. They admit that, yeah, these meetings are important, but let's see what United States does. And the question here is not that just it's not those negotiations, they called negotiations. They are not negotiations. I intend to introduce here, which I already did actually, that, the term which describes it. Those are conversations. And this is good, make no mistake. It is very positive development that two superpowers actually have conversing with each other, and conversation is the proper way to say it. There's no doubt exchange of information, exchange of opinions, but these are conversations. They will become negotiations probably at some point of time, but for now, these are conversations. And as I already stated, don't hope for too much. In the end, the whole thing may, be just a dot. Nothing may come out of it. And as I already stated, Russia will continue their special military operation. And read my lips, there will be no freezing of the conflict. There, as you already saw yourself, Russians are already in Sumy region, and as I already stated, some people say that they removed their Dragon Teeth in the Kharkov area or Kharkov operational access, and that it could be the preparation for the offensive. Could be, but it could be a feint to, as I already noted in my post in my blog yesterday, it could be to stretch even more, to stress whatever remaining resources and reserves armed forces of Ukraine have, and then maybe do something else altogether. And that is why the whatever the Nazi regime and obviously its curators, primarily from London now, are desperate that Russian SVRs, Foreign Intelligence Service, already declared, which absolutely anticipated and expected from this development of the situation, that Ukraine is preparing their false flags, for example, like attacking Russian diplomatic missions in European countries, in Germany. Well, I'm pretty sure Germany probably even can help them to attack and kill Russian diplomats, or in London, well, whatever. So to do anything impossible, to basically destroy any kind of the hope on the more or less peaceful settlement and stop killing. So expect all kinds of crap, including, they say though that not only it would be primarily in the Baltic states, and as we know, Baltic states and those people who run them, they are not really mentally adequate, and they say that it could happen in Hungary and Slovakia. Yeah, absolutely. And so expect all kinds of the elevated security measures around Russian embassies in those countries. But again, as I already stated, they can do it. Remember what happened to the Russian ambassador in Turkey? He was executed basically while speaking at was essentially the public, gathering, and that was it. So we have to keep this in mind. However, even the granddaughter of the Nazi collaborator, Nazi Polizei, and he was with the SS, this stupid, let's put it this way, bitch. She talks about Riyadh signal Moscow growing influence, according to the blog's foreign policy chief. And these are Europeans. They obviously love their Nazis. And yes, they do, actually. And Moscow emerged as the winner in the recent US-Russia meeting in Saudi Arabia, setting the agenda for negotiations. Top EU diplomat Kaja Kallas has claimed. Yeah, and Russians are winners. Well, Russians are winners always in terms of wars. Russians can lose the battle, but they usually win the wars. And so, of course, the Americans can meet with whoever they wish to. Well, thank you for Kaja Kallas, who is nobody, as I already stated, the granddaughter of Nazi officer, Estonian Nazi officer. So, thank you for giving United States, which runs actually Europeans as the master, permission to do what United States wants to do. However, she stressed that for any peace deal regarding Ukraine to be effective, it has to involve the Europeans and the Ukrainians. No, it doesn't have to. And so she has to really look at herself in the mirror, because she is deranged, as I already said, bitch, as are most of the European leaders. And some of them just bitches, others SOBs. So, and others, who knows, it's difficult even to define who they are. So, this is a kind of situation. Let's wait and see, and again, don't read too much into their rhetoric. Wait for actions. Always look for actions. Russians do actions. They report on their actions. We did this, we struck this, so for now there's a lot of talk, okay, on the American side, and this is understandable. You need the smoke, and mirrors to save the face of the United States. Europeans, yeah, they will be sacrificed. We know that. But now to all those creeps, including from the, as I already stated, the herpes, which Western media are, all of them. They are, Tucker says that each other of them is an asshole. I think so, about 80% of the people who work there, they are assholes. So, and they were, squealing from, joy, I would say. A few weeks ago, when Mr. Borisov, Yuri Borisov, was allegedly fired. He wasn't fired. From the position of the chief of the Roscosmos. Many people don't understand why he was actually appointed there. And the basically very huge acceleration of the development of the Russian space program, which he achieved. And he was promoted by Vladimir Putin yesterday, considering the fact that Yuri Borisov was asking to be retired. He has issues with the health, but here it is, the order, executive order of Russian president, as you can see yourself, or about appointing Mr. Borisov of the special representative of the president of Russian Federation in the questions of the international cooperation in space. And so since yesterday, Mr. Borisov is official representative of President of Russian Federation, and you may say, what is international cooperation in space? How about China? For example, did anybody think about it, what Russians and Chinese are planning? And they are planning, believe me, they are planning joint missions to the moon, setting up the station there, and then of course they're building Russians build their own space station, Chinese have their own space station, but that's still kind of, it's all cooperation. A lot of things are going on there jointly. And just to, as I already demonstrated to you, those guys from all those neocon and other, the cesspool of the Western media, they, as always, were wrong. And it's really excellent position of Mr. Borisov, because obviously it will take the stress of him running the Roscosmos successfully, for which I'm pretty sure expect very soon for him to be awarded for the, basically incredible achievement of the Roscosmos, for which we'll talk about, separately. But kind of in the same vein, if you wish, of Mr. Borisov appointment there, here it is. These are the photos which, so to speak, speak a lot for specialists. As you can see yourself, this is Russian Sukhoi jet. It's not SSJ anymore. It is SJ-100, fully Russian, from avionics to all materials to everything, auxiliary power unit, APU, and so, just look at this. And this is the new fully Russian PD-8 engine getting fitted to start the final the tests of not just engine. PD-8 was already successfully and received the certificate of the type, but now it's going to be flown on this aircraft for which it was designed. This is fully Russian-made aircraft, as it is, for example, this thing. But here we already have to know that MS-21, as you can see yourself flying on Russian PD-14, PD-14 is already in serial production. About, in the last year, there were like 55 already produced, so it is getting ready and being fitted in the fully Russian MS-21, which is Well, it's pre-serial production. There are many basically hulls or fuselages ready to go, and so yeah, this is what's happening. This what those backward Russians, so, and they were supposed to basically lose the war. They were supposed to remove Putin's regime. They were supposed to, allow all those, people from London, Brussels to get their hands on Russian resources. And look at this, how it all turned out to be, including, of course, the closure today of the largest cellulose paper, not mill, a huge enterprise, one of the last ones in Estonia. Or in Baltic states, I do not really distinguish them anymore. You know why? Because the price for the electricity grew 5 times, and you cannot produce anything with that type of the price for electricity, and it's basically went out of business. And that is what is expecting. Well, it's happening already in European Union. It is going to be deindustrialized, albeit, of course, Mr. Dmitriev, who was representing the economic bloc in their conversations in Riyadh, there is a talk that some American companies may return to Russia. American, yes. European, I don't think so. Russians are really predisposed that well towards Europe and Europeans and their businesses. They can go and screw themselves, especially when one looks at what they did to their cars. The cars where you don't have even the probe, the stick to check your engine oil levels, and you have to. I look at this, and yeah, there is no surprise then in the top sellers, 25 top sellers in the United States, not a single European car. They are mental, and so I'm not talking about all Europeans, but majority are, and so here we are. And this is what I wanted to tell you guys today. And as always, in the end, I want to express my profound gratitude to my wonderful patron, because you are the guys, the main reason why I can continue to do what I am doing. And as always, those guys who like what I do, please subscribe to my channel. And those who can afford, please support me on Patreon or buy me a coffee and two. And very soon I will be promoting both Spanish and German edition of my latest book. The rights have been bought and they will be published. You know what the book I'm talking about, American Final War, and it's going to be in Spanish and in German. So, well, this is it, guys, for today, and talk to you later. Have the nice rest of the week. Bye-bye.